everyone, glad to be back after these long holidays. I'll be showing you how to make these gorgeous Druzy stone napkin ring holders. And for this I've used the number 400 silicone mold, and this is from Art for Start, and these are really quality platinum silicone and I love them. I have a few of these, and for today I'm going to be showing you how to use this particular mold. So these molds take about 30 grams, or that's about 1.5 ounces in total of resin, and I have just mixed up some grey mica powder from Arteza, and I am now going to pour just a little bit of clear into the top of it. Just mix it around a little bit to get rid of any air pockets that might have been stuck down at the bottom of the mold. And then I'm just going to add some white. It's crystal white from Arteza, and I like to do a two-layered coloured in my stones. I like the bottom colour to be a little darker and the top a little lighter. It just gives it a little more variation and makes it look more real. So then just add this white to the top, zap it a couple of times with a heat gun to get rid of the surface air bubbles, and then let it dry overnight. And now on to the green. I'm just adding some metallic olive green from Jacquard, but you can use any dark green that you like, or any colour that you like in fact. And I always like to add a little bit first, make sure it's deep enough in shade, and if not you can always add more, because of course you can't take away. Once you've added it to the resin, it's there for good. And as you can see, wasn't happy with the depth of colour, so I'm adding a nice blob. Mix it around, and then I'm going to add it to my mould. But before I do that, I'm going to take some mica powder, and I absolutely love this effect. You simply take a paintbrush, a nice clean paintbrush, you dip it clean into the mica powder, and then you tap gently and brush the entire surface of the silicone mould. And it really does give a beautiful two-tone effect. All of that green powder that I'm adding to the bottom, once the resin is cured, it will all just come off clean, and you'll see at the unmolding stage none of it will be left on, and you can actually apply this liberally all the way around. I'm just leaving the sides there because I want it to be the darker green that I've just made. Just tap off the excess, and you can just see how gorgeous and glittery it is with that mica on it. It really does make a really different effect. And so now I'm adding the green, so you can add whichever colour you're making. You add it straight on the top and just swish it around a bit. I like to use the heat gun there. It's actually my very mini embossing tool. I like to do that in layers so that all the bubbles go, because it's quite deep. These are 30 grams and they're quite deep, and I'm doing it all in one go, so if I use that heat gun at the top, I might not be able to get the bubbles out from underneath. So this is the next day, leave it overnight to dry, and this is the next day, and I'm unmolding it, and you can tell that as I pop it out, all of that green mica powder has stuck onto the actual resin itself. And it's perfectly clean and reusable straight away. And I just love the way it came out. It's absolutely gorgeous. And for the next step, I do recommend you waiting just one day, not the 24 hours, not the full cure, because we're going to drill. And I like to use the smallest drill bit that I have, and I like to use a glove as well. Please do use a glove to protect your hands. Even though I haven't got a glove on the right, I do have a glove on the left, and that's important because that's the hand I may accidentally slip and hurt myself with. So then I've got one of these eye screws, and I'm just making sure it's deep inside. And you want to make sure you make a hole that's deep enough to hold one of those eyelets. And I'm going to do the same procedure on the other side, so the opposite end of that stone. And then I'll do the same for the green. And we are going to be gluing these afterwards with some super glue, and it really does hold it really well. I really do recommend a good quality super glue. You really don't want it coming off after all your hard work. So here it is. I'm using some Loctite Superglue. It's the Precision brand. And you only need a little, and do be careful of your fingers. You don't want your fingers stuck onto that glue because there's nothing worse than that. Just a little bit inside of that hole that you've drilled, and then you quickly but very carefully put in the eyelet, and then you leave it. You don't touch it, and try not to touch the sides, just the top of the eyelet, so you don't get any glue on your fingers. And make sure they're straight so that the holes are sort of facing upwards. Because once it's glued and you cannot get it off. And the same for the black one. I'm doing exactly the same procedure just to show you how to do it. Just pop it in, make sure it's level and straight. And then the same for the other side. In there, and then that's ready to go for the next part. And this one's already dried. You can see me pulling it out. Really tight. It's really secure. It's really great, this glue. I highly recommend it. So I am using 10mm, or you could use 8mm. In fact, it's your choice. You can use whichever kind of beads size you prefer. I do like the bigger beads, and anyway I had them lying around, so I thought I'd use them. Those are quartz ones over there that I'm using. They're semi-precious, and it really is nice to use semi-precious if you can, rather than glass beads or plastic beads, I suppose they do sell. And I'm using some elastic thread, any elastic thread that you prefer, but I do like the 0.5 because I'm going to be looping it through twice of the beads to make it really strong, so 0.5 is my recommendation. You don't need a lot of beads and you don't need a lot of stones for these because they're napkin rings, and the napkins are quite small. They're not very thick. So cut a piece to your size and double it. And honestly, it depends what size napkins you have, so just measure it. You have to kind of go by eye. So you loop it through one of those eyelets, and then you do one knot and then a double knot. And then you can start beading. I think I used a total of about 10 beads, if I'm not mistaken, and those are 10mm ones. I'm just going to fast forward this bit. I'm sure you know how to string beads. And it's really a relaxing activity. I've actually made myself some bracelets too, just for fun, just for myself. So there you can see I'm kind of measuring it out. That looks right to me. And once you've finished, you take the opposite end of the elastic thread and you thread it back through. And then what I'm going to do is I'm going to thread it back through all the way along. So back through that first or the last bead, and then until it meets the other end, so until it meets the other string end. And I'm going to also do the same thing for the other side. I'll be using the last bit of string that's left over on the other side to string through until both of those strings meet. And here I am doing the same on the opposite end, so back through. I think I got about 3 beads on the other side before I met up with the other string. Well, 4. No, 3. And then you're going to just pull, just to make sure it's all quite tense, the string, so that all the beads are nice and tight. And then you're going to do one knot, and then a double knot. And a double knot to finish always helps it to be much stronger. I think it might be called some sort of sailor's knot. Am I mistaken? Anyway, something like that. and then you knot them 2 or 3 times, but we will be gluing them again with that super glue just to ensure that the final knot is nice and tight and that it doesn't go anywhere. And then I'll be hiding it underneath one of the actual knot I'll be hiding underneath one of the stones, and that's a little tip I can give you so that you don't see the knot in between 2 beads. So here I am doing a double knot, so that's 1 loop and then back through the exact same loop and then really pull it. Make sure it's nice and tight. And before I cut it off, I'm going to use some of this super glue and I'm going to put just a little dot, not too much. You don't want it actually touching the bead itself, you just want it to be on the knot. A little blob on top of the knot, and then I'm finding the nearest bead and I'm hiding it underneath. Then very carefully snip off the rest and let it dry. And there you go, 1 napkin ring. So for the black one I've done the exact same thing, and I've used some hematite and some lava stones and 1 or 2, I think it's 1 or 2 cracked crystal quartz just at the ends there, if you can see on the top right. And this is optional, but it's nice to put a little bit of gilding. You know, we're kind of used to putting gilding now on our coasters and on any plates that we make and trays, etc. And it's optional, you don't have to do it, but if you do, I'm just using a pen since I'm not worried about it coming off, because you're not really going to wash them at all. And here's the end result. So I really hope you've enjoyed the tutorial. I really hope you've been inspired, and maybe you'll make your own. And if you do, please do tag me on Instagram or Facebook or even Pinterest or even YouTube. And here's a little idea of how you can present your napkins. You can look on the internet if you like for different ways of folding napkins. I'm sure that's a whole nother tutorial I could do, but this is quite a simple way of doing it, and it does look kind of pretty. And I've used these on black napkins, but you can use them on white ones or any other colours that you like. And it's actually quite nice for every person at the dinner table to have a different coloured napkin ring. And you know, it makes great gifts. So if you're having a dinner party, you could always put it on their plate with a name on it, or underneath. You could write their name underneath, and then you can offer it to them at the end of the meal. So I really hope you've enjoyed this tutorial. I will see you in my next one. Take good care of yourselves. Bye!